and sit down. Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Build, Paint, Play. I'm Dave.
And I'm Jake.
And this is, up here, is Hank Edley.
Yeah.
You always point the wrong way, Jake. What's going on?
On mine, he's over here.
Oh, okay. Radio. On mine.
There you go. Is he over here?
Yeah, he is. He's over here. So, everybody, we're here to welcome Hank Edley from AdeptiCon, one of the founding... I think in the description I've put founding director. I'm not sure if director is the right title, but...
Yeah, I mean, really, actually, founding members, Matt would be a little upset at me if I didn't clarify that really Jeff Chua and Matt kind of founded Adepticon year one, and I came along year two, but...
okay.
I don't draw any real distinction between it. I'm sure Matt does.
Sure. No worries.
In the hierarchy.
Excellent.
Yeah, correct. I'm second fiddle, for sure.
No, okay.
Excellent. No, that's great. Fantastic. So quickly saying hi to everybody in the chat. We've got Chris Gorka is here. Hi, Chris. Hi, Sean. Hi, Brian. Hi, Jeff. And hello, Chris. We've got a few other people who haven't said hi just yet. I'm sure we'll have...
I can't see who else is here, but there's definitely a bunch of other people here.
Yep. No, that's good. So as we're going through tonight, I will warn you, Jake, some folks who are at Spray Team, Adepticon Spray Team at Hank's house over the weekend, plan to be here and to cause a ruckus in the chat.
Totally fine.
So we need to... oh, hey, Phil's here. Hey, Cliff. How's it going? But yeah, we'll keep an eye out for any Mr. Tisdale action.
Yeah, my staff definitely made sure to get the word out so that they could put me on the spot.
Fantastic.
Nice.
That's great. That's great. Welcome everybody who hasn't seen Build, Paint, Play before. But it's basically where Jake and I get together for about 90 minutes every Tuesday night and talk about all different sorts of hobby stuff. Really?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. That pretty much sums it up. We try to keep it positive here. Like there's enough, half like sour grape channels where it's everybody just like bitching and moaning about stuff in our industry, and we try not to do that. Everybody has an opinion, and if Dave or I or somebody in the chat wants to talk about something, that's fine. But we try to keep it more like moving in the right direction.
Yep. Exactly. So I think just quickly we'll talk hobby. Jake, how is your army for AdeptiCon coming along?
Pass. It's good. I didn't get a lot done this week. We're still waiting on our GW restock. This stuff I told you about last week, where we placed a huge order, and apparently the robots that work in the warehouse are still not up to snuff. So what should have been here on Monday is supposed to get here on Thursday. So once it gets here, I have to get. I'm going to buy 2 more tanks this wave, I think, and knock those out before I move on to the rest. But it should be fine. Yeah, Chris is in the chat being like, "Come on, Chris! I promise you, I am bringing 2K. Like we will get a Horus Heresy game in at Adepticon, or several."
Yep. So you know, Hank, Jake is bringing 7 tanks and 3 dreadnoughts in his 2,000 points.
I might flip it to.
Iron
Warriors. I might flip it to 7 tanks and 4 dreadnoughts. It depends on how I shake out my points, but. Yeah, I'm trying to make a list that's fluffy and like kind of fun for how they work. But the more I talk to like all the guys I know that play competitive, and I don't do that anymore. I had my days in the sun. I don't play super competitive anymore. They're all like, "Oh, that's not super effective. You should get rid of this." And I'm like, I want to run a bunch of tanks. Like
that.
Yeah.
Not for the Horus Heresy event for sure.
Yeah. Excellent.
And don't worry, Jake. You got like 53 days or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. I think I can do it.
No stress. Just spread all lead belcher.
I'm going to do a bunch of washes. The hard part is going to be, like we've talked about this before. My big thing is I want to spend the bulk of my time doing like detail and, hash marks and all that stuff. That's what I like to do with my Marines.
Yep.
It's the first 85% that I'm just like, oh, I got to paint all these guys red and then, do whatever and paint detail and get all the layering done before I get to do all the stuff that I enjoy.
The fun stuff. Yeah.
But
no, that's cool. Well, at least you don't have to worry about that. So that's good.
Yeah, it's
very
true.
Cool.
How about you? What did you get done?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, Cliff says that his Adepti Prep status is 30.11% completed.
It's pretty good.
Josh is here, greeting us from the Pocket Dimension. I think I missed James Broadbent is here as well. Hello, James.
Yeah.
But yeah, fantastic. Myself, I got some terrain painted.
Nice.
So this enormous cobra from Reaper Bones.
That's just a life-size cobra.
Pretty much. But I have 2 of them. And they're going to sit on either side of the entrance that I'm building for the Tremendous Tome. The the Sinister Stands thing. So, yeah, Hank's super interested because it's terrain.
Absolutely.
And the cool thing about this is it was sprayed with vermin fur from the Army Painter. And then they're sort of desert yellow, I think it's called.
Okay.
And then skeleton bone. And a bit of a dry brush. Picked out those blue eyes. Yeah. So I got that. I got this cool little pit.
Was it a well? Okay, it's like a snake pit.
Snake pit. Yep.
Why did it have to be snakes?
Yeah, I think it's basically you march somebody up the steps and then you push them into the pit. And that's all Thulsa Doom action, like
that.
Absolutely.
Up there.
So I did that, and I ordered the 2 Signature Series sets.
Very nice.
Acro. They arrived yesterday. So super excited about those.
It's the Dave Taylor Signature Series?
No, this is there's the Ninjon and the Vince Venturella.
No, I want a Dave Taylor Signature Series.
Well, I might be able to. Fingers crossed. If everything goes well, maybe we'll get an Adepticon spray team signature series.
Yep.
Nice.
In which
So
case,
we're-
there'll be a color called gold banding. Because of me.
Dave's signature paint.
Yep.
For sure.
Right on. Josh says Josh has got a great quote. Asps, very dangerous. You go first.
Yes. Excellent. Yes, Tank is subtly indicating that we're all severely underdressed for this most auspicious event. Yeah, we do have to thank Hank for jumping in directly off a work call.
I just figured I'd raise the game here in the class of this this broadcast and
Right on.
wear my work clothes.
I appreciate that.
Fair enough. Okay, I might try a tie next week. We'll see how it goes. And there was something else. I can't remember what.
You worked on a bunch of terrain.
Anyway, yeah. Also worked on a bunch of terrain.
A little bit.
What was that, Hank?
I said just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just a touch.
Just a touch.
Yeah. I have bruises on the back of my legs from the sitting on the corner of the sitting on that chair for I think I worked out it must have been about 30 hours. Not all in a row.
There were some long days for
Just
sure.
over a couple of days.
Were you guys batch painting it? Like Dave does roofs and Hank does bricks and so does
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Although, I mean, to be fair, right? If I'm picking up a paintbrush, we're in trouble. So that's how you know we're behind with spray team work.
Yep.
You were just there supervising?
I have to make sure they have drinks and snacks and food and all the hobby supplies they need, and make sure they have everything that they require. So
something that Hank sorted out for us this year. I'm sure it's a wonderful hobby apron.
Oh, nice.
Like heavy duty. With the AdeptiCon spray team logo. And it was very helpful because, where is it? Right about here. At some point, I was squeezing out some black paint. And it didn't go down as I desired. It just shot straight back at me. So it saved my jeans. Very happy.
There you go.
So I think we'll see that in one of the photos we got coming up later on. Not me squeezing the black paint, but me wearing the...
Yeah, that's great. It'd be great if Hank got a photo of that, of you like blowing your black paint all over yourself.
There you go.
There was one point as well where I was shaking a bottle of the Pro-Acryl Jade, like this. And I accidentally had the nozzle open. So Jade paint was going everywhere. So I have some splotches of that on the good old
That's what it's
apron as
there for.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good. That's sound thinking. Well done.
Yep, definitely very good. But excellent. Oh, okay. Jumping in quickly there. Brian says, as a fellow Iron Warriors player, how does Jake go about painting hazard stripes?
So I used to do them. I've changed the way that I've done them. I used to paint black because it's easier, and I'll do all the edges black, and then I'll go back and I'll use I think it's like Iron Jaws yellow or Yandin yellow, and I won't add any water to it. I'll just do straight yellow lines and let those dry, and then I'll go back and I'll do a second if I need to. Okay. But the new way I've discovered that I think is a lot easier is I'll paint it with Averland Sunset, and then I'll go over that with the Yandin. I like a really bright, like a Bruins gold almost.
Right.
So I'll paint it like so it's brighter, and then let that dry. And then once that's done, I'll use either like a Micron pen or just a Sharpie, and I'll paint my lines like that.
Okay.
Because I have a little micro ruler, so I'll use that. And I can do nice straight lines and space them out. It's a lot easier.
Yeah. Brian says it's driving him nuts.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to do it. There's you can also get like I don't remember who, but there's a bunch of companies that make like stencils if you wanted to try to do it with a spray can or something like that. I don't think the hard thing is if you're doing it on like the tanks and stuff or like on shoulder pads, it's too small to really use a stencil. Like you're not doing the whole tank, you're doing like a little cutout around like one of the like the tread ends or something. So I know they make them. I don't think it's super helpful, but you can always use stuff like I use poster tack a lot, or not poster tack.
Silly putty.
Yeah, like silly putty. Just like put it down where you want it, and then you can just spray it if you needed to, if you're using an airbrush or something. But
John Roberts has just hit on something in the chat about that I was about to say, masking tape.
I use blue painter's tape a lot too.
Yep. Tamiya do a whole range of really thin, really small, like they might be like 2 millimeters wide or 3 or 4, or that sort of thing. So definitely look those up online.
Yeah, and in the auto industry too, right? A lot of pinstriping tape can be used for that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways to do it. I think it's easier to do the yellow first and then put the black over it, just because you don't have to do it. You don't have to keep doing as many coats, or if you screw up, you don't have to go back and touch it up.
Yeah.
But I think that's the easiest way.
No, very definitely.
Yeah, Cliff just said the same thing. He said pinstriping tape. So.
Yep. Excellent. That's good. So, that's kind of hobby stuff. What we've been doing hobby stuff wise.
Is Hank working on anything hobby wise?
I painted some Sarlacc pits this weekend under the tutelage of Dave Taylor, so that was good. And then we painted probably, I don't know, 325 train pieces over the last 3 days, whatever it's been.
Yep.
So
pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yep. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a little bit of Thursday night for some folks who arrived early. But and some Monday, I guess, for those who
and some Monday. Yeah, and some Monday.
I snuck out after breakfast.
Yeah.
But definitely good.
That's awesome. I mean, as somebody who regularly attends AdeptiCon, like on behalf of the community, let me thank you guys for doing that, because it's awesome. That's one of the things that everybody really enjoys, is like going around and seeing all the tables looking great, and regardless of whatever the game is, like there's always cool terrain. If I'm playing Legion or 40K or whatever, like there's always like cool terrain on the table. So your work is appreciated.
Yep, definitely check out the Legion tables at the show this year. There's a whole ton. We worked on a ton of Legion stuff, and so Hank and Mike Coleman and Paul Long.
Yep.
Have been doing a lot of 3D printing. And when I say a lot of 3D printing, pretty much everything we painted this weekend, like 90% of it was 3D printed.
Yeah, a lot of it was. We had some kits from Atomic Mass Games, some Legion, trained those X-Wings, and the
new Crashed X-Wing is awesome.
ATSDs were all stock Legion train kits.
Yep. It's,
bunch of 3D printed stuff.
Loads. It was great. It was great to see Hank's printer farm. With
I saw the photo that you posted, Dave. Yep. It's like there's just like a bunch of them. I was like, oh, nice. That must be cool.
There were 3 resin printers and 4 filament printers. So
nice. Yeah. I think the most fun piece of Legion terrain we have at my store is, I don't know where we got it. Somebody gave it to Adam. Like Dave, Adam Pratt. Somebody gave it to Adam Pratt, and Adam left it at the store. It is a Legion scale Millennium Falcon.
Oh wow!
I mean, it's like this. It is massive, but it's the right size. I was like, man, that thing is crazy. And Adam's like, I don't know where it's from. I don't know who makes it, but it's this big vacuum mold sealed. It's 2 halves, and there's like 18 screws holding it together.
Okay.
But it's pretty beefy. Like it's really durable. Like you could drop it and it would bounce. It's not like fragile 3D printed stuff. I don't know where it's from, but it's phenomenal. And everybody's like, when are you guys going to paint it? And I was like, it would fill the table. Like if I use it straight, like you can't play on the table. It looks great, but you can't use it. So
you just may get the table and fight over the top of it.
Sure. Yeah. At some point one of the guys wants to make an elevated like Endor landing pad thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you make that, having that thing hanging off the table would be hilarious. Yeah. But again, it's like an umbrella, like over the table. So
I think that'd be great. Excellent.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I mean, I'm always a fan of over the top sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'll get a photo. I'll send it to Dave tomorrow so you can put it
I
up.
definitely want to see it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
insane.
That'd be great. Oh, Dan Wood says, "Hey, I remember the stream. The stream was on twice now. New personal record, fantastic." He also says, "Nice sweater, Jake."
Of course, they're playing tonight. They're playing against the Canadians. I hope they crush them.
No. Chris says, "Any airbrush work, Hank?" Are you putting that class we took back to work?
Chris and I actually took an airbrush class with Caleb and Kat, right? So actually I took it with my entire family up in Chicago.
Yep.
Nice.
So, Chris and I took that class. Chris and I go back quite a ways, but I hadn't seen him in a long time, and then saw him there at that class. So it's great.
Yep.
So yeah, I put that to use all the time, mainly cleaning those guys' airbrushes. That's what I do after spray team's over. Is I got to clean a bunch of airbrush.
For those of you who've used airbrushes before, I'm not sure if you've ever had a situation where you've gone through, you've cleaned the last lot of color of paint out of the brush. You've had to pull the needle out to get in to down at the bottom of the cup, make sure that's all clean, and then you've poured in some new paint and you put in some water to thin the paint, and you put the lid on and you go to shake it. That's how I usually do it with the airbrush, and you shake it and realize that you forgot to put the needle back in.
Mm. Common theme with you, Dave, forgetting that,
forgetting that things are open, or that there are holes. Maybe I should just stop shaking stuff. Basically, is what it is.
Step 2 of 12 was skipped.
So, there's one that might have a little bit of paint still back further. I did take it apart and soak it all and try and get it cleaned out, but fingers crossed it won't be too bad.
I'm bad. I just backflow it to mix it, so that's probably not the best thing to do either. So.
It might be something I need to start doing, so we'll see how that goes. Scott Reedham's here. Hey, Scott. He says, "I'm late. Had to pack for LVO." So I think Scott's heading there. You're heading tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe Thursday. Josh says, what's he talking about? What are you talking about?
He's talking about the Falcon.
Oh, okay, radio. I was looking back up through the chat, and then I was like, is he talking about salad dressing? Anyway. Excellent. And John Roberts is talking more about the using the tape to make the strips. Okay. Chris is saying that he can't say that he's done that. Shaking the
airbrush without the pin in it.
Without the needle in it, yeah. But he says little plastic pill cups. Mix the paint in that. Yeah. I could, but
it's another step.
Yeah. Somebody's going to say, of course, that it took me half an hour to clean that airbrush, and then I'm going to save some time by mixing it in a pill cup. But
Dave likes the danger, though.
I like that visceral feeling.
Yeah. He likes to, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space.
Exactly. But anyway, so yeah, we've rambled about a whole bunch of stuff already. But Hank, tell us a little bit about the origins of AdeptiCon.
Sure. So, I mean, we're headed into essentially our 20th year of AdeptiCon. Obviously, we took a couple of years off with COVID, but AdeptiCon started 20 years ago. So I would have been a lot younger. Didn't have 4 kids, and I was a big 40K player. Back then there were a lot of like RTTs going on. You would check the back of the White Dwarf for where there were RTTs going on. And Matt Weeks was driving around the country because back then GW actually had like a Hall of Heroes sort of thing going on, and we had a big rivalry between Chicago and downstate Illinois, and there was a lot of RTT circuits going on at that point in time. And I think we went to maybe Chicago Games Day, kind of met Jeff and Matt, and there was some idea, there were some changes going on with games days, and we just sort of decided, maybe we can run an event and kind of run the sort of event that we'd like to play in. And so that first year, they organized an event with a local convention called Ides of March, and they partnered with that and ran it inside of that. Worked with Games Workshop at that point in time. Games Workshop was regionalized, so there was the Chicago Battle Bunker and the Midwest group there. Josh Wimberly was there at that point in time.
Oh yeah,
and organized it. I think there was like maybe 80 attendees that first year, and that experience, and there's some issues with us in the Ides of March, and kind of decided year two we needed to do it ourselves. So really year two there would have been like 2004. Went out on our own with AdeptiCon, and every year after that, we just tried to grow sustainable growth for double-digit growth. Those early years, we were primarily a Games Workshop show. I was calling game clubs in the back. I'm showing my age, I guess, but there, the back of the White Dwarfs, there were those game clubs, and early days of internet, and calling people regionally and locally that were heading up game clubs, and asking them to come. And those early years were we were just kind of making stuff up as we went along, but really kind of the kind of stuff we wanted to do. And then
one of the sorry, just going to interrupt for a sec. One of the big things that was, so I guess it was the at the heart of the event back then was the team tournament, the 40K team tournament.
Yeah, for sure. We we came up with that format. The first year was a little different, but really since year two on, it's been kind of that 4-man team format. And the idea of Adepticon originally was getting your buddies back together that you used to game with in college, or that you were able to meet up with at the local game store. But maybe life, you kind of went your separate ways, moved out of town, got a job, had responsibilities. But Adepticon was sort of that place that you could come back to once a year and, kind of relive those days, I guess. So that's gotten a few people in trouble, I think. But overall, that's kind of what that team tournament is about. And then the other side to that is, most of the work of the team tournament is in the process of getting ready for it. So getting 4 folks that are like-minded together to work on hobby projects throughout the year, a reason to get together, a reason to show up at people's houses, a reason now, I guess, to get on calls and do things virtually, really had legs for us. It's kind of been our signature thing.
So yeah, that was one of the, I think it was the first event that I played in at an Adepticon in 2006.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, I came out in 2005. You invited me out in 2005 to see the show, and it was just amazing, and seeing the work that everybody put into their team tournament armies and that kind of thing. And so I went back, and like when I was back in the office the next day, it was like, okay, John Schaefer, let's get a team together.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, and then just seeing what people have done with that format, just what teams do and the different levels that they bring it. I think it's kind of culminated now that we have the Age of Sigmar team tournament now is 4 players, and I don't know if anybody saw that Big Blood Keep last year. That was impressive. That was as impressive as anything I've ever seen on the 40K side. So
yeah. Yeah, it was. It was even conceptually. Conceptually, it was incredible. The execution was incredible. Just standing next to it was like, ah.
Cliff,
go ahead, Jake.
Cliff wanted to know. You said the first one was in Rosemont.
Yeah, so the first one was it used to be a Crown Plaza, I think, across the way there.
Yep.
Actually, that's where the Ides of March was year one, and then we moved to the Marriott Schaumburg for a couple of years, and then we actually moved back to the Crown Plaza on our own, and we were there a couple of years, and then ultimately went to Lombard in that Weston facility, and then now at the Schaumburg Convention Center for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I think I've been to every Adepticon that's been at the Schaumburg. I think
At the
at
convention center.
the one it's at now.
Yep.
That what is that one called?
It's the Schaumburg Renaissance Convention Center. It's a Marriott property. Yeah.
Yes, I think I've been to everyone that's been at that location.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just curious. One of the guys in the chat was asking if it was at Rosemont.
Yep.
Are you guys thinking about maybe growing or moving to another location? Because I know you guys are at the point now that last year you added a second venue kind of at another place with all the historical stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, I'm assuming this year's going to be bigger again. Are you guys looking at maybe trying to grow into a bigger venue or trying to handle that or?
Well, COVID obviously has thrown a lot of kinks and a lot of things. We had some discussions with the Village of Schaumburg, and in fact, there's a plan that the Village of Schaumburg has posted for that development of that corridor in that area. And actually, they're going to start building a parking deck on that facility this year. They've already tore down some of the low-level commercial real estate that was across the way from our venue. It's going to be kind of overflow parking for this year. But there's a long-term development plan there to add another 60 to 100,000 square feet onto the facility we're currently in. And
Okay.
The main issue is to move. Moving is there's pros and cons with everything you do, and to get into a bigger facility than what we're currently in and around the Chicago area, you're really only talking about two other properties, and that is the Donald Stevenson Center, which is where Chicago Games Days used to be held, and then the McCormick place downtown Chicago. And both of those facilities have drawbacks. So I think our play a couple of years ago, granted we weren't foreseeing COVID, was to the timeline on that development was going to kind of line up nicely with our growth and what Adepticon was planning to do. Unfortunately, COVID's kind of threw that for a loop, but the good news is they're continuing forward with it. There's going to also be a Mario Andretti F1 entertainment venue built across the way. So for whatever reason, there's a large number of Adepticon tabletop gamers that also follow F1. So I get to hear about that all the time in the Adepticon after party. So they'll be excited about that, I'm sure.
Yep, definitely. Scott says it's very hard to get a hotel room in the convention center. For those willing to pay extra, can we reserve rooms a year in advance? Actually, Scott, yeah, I think you can reserve rooms in the hotel at the regular rate. Definitely when the Adepticon room block which is like at a subsidized rate, goes on sale. That's when it sells out for sure. But
yeah, there's a limited number of hotel rooms that are available in that convention center. That's just unfortunately the reality. And I guess one way to do it would be book with Geek Nation Tours, because they have they have a block, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, a lot of people travel now to come to the show. Like every year that I've come, I'm always blown away with like how well put together it is and how I go to, I think at my height I was doing like 14 different shows a year, and now I'm down to like 6. And Adepticon is by far my favorite show, and it's because I get to see so many friends in the industry and so many people that I used to work with back in the day at GW. And even in the chat right now, there's like 4 ex-GW guys in the chat. So I always have a fun time at that show. But I think one of the big things now is because there's so many people that travel to go to that show, it's easy enough to go, oh, let's just get an Airbnb. So 6 of us will rent a house or something, or like that's another way to kind of get away from it. I think part of it is like with any show that you go to, if the venue is a hotel, it's always easier to be like, I'm going to take this thing that I bought and take it up to my room. Like, who doesn't love that? So I get it. I understand why they sell out all the time, but
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the convenience there of having the hotel connected and you just walk out the elevator and in the event space. I totally get that appeal and why people love that, and want to stay in the main facility, but it's just not a reality right now with the size that we've become. And what's interesting a lot of times is those folks that have that complaint then advocate for us to go to bigger facilities, which clearly then don't have that capability, right? I mean, the Donald Stevenson Center, there's not a connected hotel. There's a lot of hotels that have big, long, covered walkways there, but there's no hotel that's right part of the Donald Stevenson Center that you walk off the elevator and you're walking out onto the game floor. That just doesn't exist.
Is that the one where the big car show happens?
I don't. Now there's a big car show actually at the Schaumburg Convention Center, but the main Chicago Auto Show, I think, isn't that in McCormick?
I think
maybe I'm getting them mixed up. Maybe it's the
boat show is definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's the boat show.
But, C2E2 is the Donald Stevens Center.
Yeah.
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
So that's one there, but yeah, that's where I just remember it from Chicago Games Day when we used to go out there review.
And the other thing, if you tour that facility, what you'll find is it was built a long time ago, and so instead of having the massive open space that we have of our convention center and 99,000 square feet, and there's not a pillar in sight, you go to the Donald Stevenson Center, there's a pillar every 20 feet that you have to account for in floor plans and work around table layouts and all that kind of stuff. It's ceiling heights are a lot lower in a lot of it. So I don't know, pros and cons.
Yep.
Again, I think the nicest thing about where you guys are at now is it's one of my favorite venues because everything feels kind of self-contained. Yeah. Like you've got like the two gaming halls and then like the vendor hall, and then you guys put up the doors, but then you've got the whole strip outside with like the bits guys and all the artists and stuff, and then there's like the thing around the corner with like vendors. So everything is somewhat close by. It's one of the shows that I like going to because I'm like, I can go see everything and I don't feel like I walked all across Disney all day. You know what I mean? Like that's always a fun part of going to the shows. I want to be able to get to the things that I want to get to.
Yep.
But on top of that, to your point, like with it being newer, the fact that it's wide open and everything feels like I never feel like I'm, no matter how many people are there, I never feel like I'm like totally, crushed in somewhere. It always feels really open and big, and I think that makes a huge difference in having that many people in there and still feeling like it's movable.
Yeah, and the way you laid it out, I mean the proposal that they have for expansion is, right now the main convention center space, that those three big sections, they're going to add another section on each side, so it'll be 5 sections instead of 3. So if you think that space is vast and big already, just imagine it, another 60,000 square feet. So I got my fingers crossed that it's not my first rodeo with government and local development projects to understand that, it may be a long way down the road, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I'm an optimist.
No, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, again, if I'm the hotel and I know that we have people who want that space, like, why wouldn't you do it? So,
well, and we're not the only ones. They have some other events that are coming. We're certainly one of the biggest events that they have, but they have some other events. They got a Meacham car show and some other stuff that comes in there that occupies the entire thing. So, there's definitely incentive for the Village of Schaumburg, which owns that property, to make the investment and get it done.
Who knows? Maybe we can add a fall AdeptiCon, and then you can do 2 shows a year, like.
Yeah, that's been suggested more than once over the last 20 years. Not something Matt and I got the stomach to do.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you guys. Yeah, like this year is weird. Like part of the reason that I'm doing only 6 shows is because that weekend and that I mean, you guys in GaryCon always kind of like move around because yours is always that weekend. It's always whatever it's the third weekend, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So it's always that weekend. And GaryCon is always it's a date, not the number of it's not the third weekend, it's a specific date. So it's always either it's been like a week before you guys, it's been the week after you guys. So they move around and that's a different enough crowd that like and it's another smaller show, so there's not that much of a big deal. And then you get WonderCon on the West Coast, which is basically like it's like a mini Comic-Con basically. It's a big show, but the big one is PAX East. And that's my home show here in Boston, and I always go to that. But this year I was like, it's an easy decision. I'm going to AdeptiCon. All my friends are like, you're not going to PAX? I was like, no, I'm going to be in Chicago. So
is PAX East on the same weekend?
Yeah. Now PAX East is a weird one because the guys at Penny Arcade, because PAX East is such a massive event. I mean, it's like between 60 and 80,000 people. So they have to pick whatever weekend they can get from the venue.
Sure.
And the venue it's at is gigantic.
Yep.
But theirs is it's less about like the dates. It just has to be like the earliest it's been, I think one year it was like the end of January.
Okay.
And the latest it's been is like the first week of May.
So it's just going to be vaguely spring.
Yeah. Now they try to keep it in like February, March, April-ish. It's usually within like a 6-week band.
Yep.
But it flexes all over the place. And I was talking to one of the event coordinators and he was saying that part of it is they're booking those dates like 4 years down the road. Yeah. So he's like, like we'll sign a contract, we'll do our first 2 years, and then we'll have 2 years left and we'll sign another contract for 4 more years. So we just pick the dates and they give them to us. So we have no idea what's like by the time it shows up, it's like, well, this has been on the books for 3 years. Like we weren't able to, and I get it, but at the same time, it's frustrating because you're like, oh man, like for all the people that are like, I do both, or I want to do 3 shows. But yeah, but again, like the good news, you guys should feel psyched because I was like, well, that's a no-brainer. Like I got invited to all of those shows, and I was like, I'm going to AdeptiCon.
Yeah, and we do the same thing, right? We're contractually obligated on a multi-year contract, and we're always working 2-3 years ahead. It's one of the reasons why, honestly, changing venues is so difficult because even if you want to change a venue, you're pretty much making that decision, with still 2 years left on your current deal that you've negotiated. And oh, by the way, hotels know what you're doing when you're pushing off further contract extensions when you're going to wait till the final year of your deal. They know you're looking and moving, and so they get more difficult to deal with. And I mean, it's a cycle. So, and I'll let a secret out. I mean, Matt would really love to go to GaryCon. I mean, Matt's a super RPG guy, nerd, whatever. Yep. But his D&D collection is pretty impressive.
Vast is what
you should have Matt. Matt should go to Gamehole Con.
I see Matt's in the chat. He's like, I would. Yeah, there you go.
Gamehole Con. Yeah, Gamehole Con. I think Gamehole Con would be the one I think to hit up.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and the other side to that too with GaryCon is, I've reached out to them. I've offered to negotiate with them to try to make sure that future AdeptiCon and GaryCon dates are different dates. They weren't real receptive to that, so I made the offer because we've been in this time slot for a long time.
Oh yeah,
GaryCon kind of moved into this time slot from a previous time slot, and I understand why they want to be in this time slot because it's pretty advantageous because you're not in tax season yet. Folks can still get their tax returns done. You have reasonable expectations of having at least reasonable weather in Chicago late March. But yet you can still get space because you're not in wedding season and it's a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah, last year Tommy Rice and I did both. So I flew in on Wednesday, helped the Warlord team set up, and then did sneak peeks and all that stuff Wednesday night, hung out with everybody, and then was there all day Thursday, was there all day Friday, and then Friday night Tommy and I basically rented a car and drove to Lake Geneva, which is like right outside. Yeah, it was like an hour and 20 minutes. It really wasn't that bad.
Yep.
No.
So we drove up there, and like, and I'm not trying to speak ill. It was fun, but like I walked through their vendor hall, and their vendor hall is like a fifth the size of yours, or a quarter. It's like one whole row of yours is like their whole vendor hall.
Yeah.
So we kind of walked through and grabbed Big Rick Ankney. I don't know if you know Rick. So we're like, hey, so what else is there to do? And he was like, that's really it. And I was like, there's no like interactive stuff. And he's like, it's basically just people hanging out playing D&D for 4 days. And I was like, okay, so there isn't like a lot of stuff to do. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, we didn't sign up for any events. Like we thought we would hang out and check stuff out. And like I will say, and I'm sure that Matt will appreciate this. The absolute murderer's row that they have for their artist alley is insane. It's all the old school D&D guys. Like they had Clyde Caldwell was there, and Jeff Easley, and Larry Elmore. Like that was nuts. Like you're like, oh my god, these guys illustrated my childhood. It was great. So that was neat. And like Margaret Weiss was there, and she's an absolute sweetheart. I've met her a couple times. But again, most of those guys you're gonna see at like Gen Con. Like they'll all be at Gen Con. So but that was really neat. So then we're like, well, I didn't sign up for any events, and it's kind of too late to do that. Like, do you want to just go back to AdeptiCon? So like we jumped back in the car and drove back to AdeptiCon and spent the weekend at AdeptiCon. So like it was fun. Like it was cool, but I was like, oh, okay, it's very much like, hey, why don't the three of us meet up at GaryCon, and Matt can meet us there on Thursday, and we'll just play D&D with, a DM for 4 days. Like that's what it's for. And I get that, but it was very much like one of my favorite things about AdeptiCon is you'll see guys show up and they'll have like their kids and their wives, and people can kind of hang out. There's just so many things to like check out and see and do. It's a really sort of like tactile show for a lot of people. If you've never been to a show, like I feel like there's always stuff to do, even if you're not playing games. It's like, want to head to Fort Wappel and learn how to paint a mini? Want to sign up for an airbrush class? Want to like go check out the terrain? Like want to play in a quick play? Like there's so much stuff to do. So
I think one of the advantages of AdeptiCon is that it's because it's miniature gaming, it's visual, so you can spend that time wandering past and looking at all of the armies and looking at all the terrain, that sort of thing. A little bit different to theater of the mind stuff if you're not sitting down at the table.
So much mini stuff with gaming now, like with D&D and other RPGs. I figured for sure they'd be like, oh, it's the whole like your Tome of Dungeons, like there's like, oh, look at this big dungeon we made with a dragon, and I was like, oh, there really wasn't anything like that. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go say hi to the guys at the Steamforge booth again.
Well, and that honestly is the big issue is, I know it's an issue for some of our attendees, but it's really a big issue for, in particular, vendors that have crossover between the tabletop miniature world and the role play. And so, for vendors that cater to both of those markets, it's they either have to make choices or they have to have a dual investment of booth and space and resources. So it's definitely not ideal.
Like Steamforge was at both.
Yeah.
Had a booth with you guys, and they had all like their like Bard Song, which the minis in that are amazing. And a lot of their like the God Tier, which is their like miniature skirmish game. Yep. But then they also had all their Epic Encounter D&D stuff at GaryCon. So like it was like, oh, I get it. I understand why you guys have both booths. Again, not to hit it again, but with the 4 shows being the same week this year, I had a conversation with Gregoire from now he's at Modifius. And Perch and those guys. And then I was talking to Doug Shute at Free League Press.
Yeah.
And the plan was that we were going to try to figure out a way to do all 4 shows. So Doug was going to go to GaryCon and have a Free League booth, Free League Press, with Modifius stuff because they have a partnership deal. And then Greg was going to go to WonderCon and have a Modifius booth that also stocked all the Free League stuff. And then my store here in Boston was going to have a booth at PAX East with all of their stuff. So it was going to be sponsored by Free League and Modifius. And then I was like, I'm going to be at Adepticon. And Greg was like, could you run the Modifius booth at Adepticon? And I was like, this seems crazy, but okay.
Yeah.
just crazy enough it might work.
Seriously, it was a little nuts.
Excellent.
Like we all got together and we're like, okay, here's the plan.
It certainly does sound like.
Yeah, it was a little crazy. I was like, this is a bit more than I think we can do, guys.
Yep. Excellent. Well, we've rambled about a lot of stuff there, but just wanted to quickly jump in and say and ask Hank. I know. So painting competitions. We've talked about painting competitions before on the show in last season. If you haven't seen those episodes, go and check them out. What painting competitions are at AdeptiCon this year, 2024?
Well, we have, the Games Workshop's Golden Demons returned, right?
Yep.
So that was announced last year at the closing ceremony, and so again, we'll have Games Workshop's Golden Demon painting competition, and for those that are there, the cases in the foyer, and the spectacle that is, and then.
Yep.
We were supposed to launch Atomic Mass Games Worthy painting competition back in 2020, but of course, we had COVID and that derailed us. And then even last year, with all the uncertainty, they didn't want to put that forward. So we have the Atomic Mass Games, the Worthy. For those of you that haven't heard about that, it's got a massive Odin statue. I mean, the thing's big to the overall winner, but then they do have, and Dave, you can probably speak to it better than I can, but the way that painting competition is organized is it's very kind of focused on individual improvement and recognizing that stuff.
So it's rather than being the podium format the Golden Demon is, where you get a first, second, third in each category. It is an open format competition, much like the Capital Palette that we talked about last year, where there might be 2 golds, 3 golds, no golds, 17 silvers, whatever it might happen to be in a category. It's, as Hank says, it's much more about that you're there competing against yourself rather than competing against other folks. So, but yeah, that'll be very exciting.
Yep, and then we have the Creature Caster and the Resin Beast, right? So they have a painting competition. I believe there's a good bit of prize support and prize money associated with that painting competition. I do believe the Parabellum folks are involved.
Yeah, Resin Beast, I think, is Parabellum.
Yeah, are involved with that one as well. It's kind of a partnership. Obviously, there's the we've had the Privateer Press painting competition.
Yep, the Grandmaster.
The Grandmaster, so that returns as well. And then I believe we have Mantic's painting competition this year as well that they've announced.
Okay.
So those are the main ones that I'm at least aware about as of today. There might be more, but that's the ones I'm aware of.
So that's 5. You got Golden Demon, the Worthy, Resin Beast, the Grandmaster, and Mantic. So P3.
Brush with Death. Yeah, Brush with Death, I think is what it's called.
Oh,
yeah.
Mantic's Brush with Death?
Yeah, Brush with Death.
Oh, nice.
Kind of a clever name. Right?
Yeah. Yep, not bad at all.
Metal.
Very metal. So, yep.
So you can, there's a lot of opportunity to enter a lot of different painting competitions, and I think it's great.
Yep. No, that's very cool. Big fan of that.
And none of them I have to run, which is even better.
Awesome. That's good.
I'm sure those phone calls are great. Well, yeah, hello. Yo, you want to run a painting contest? Absolutely. That sounds great. You guys are going to take care of it? Absolutely.
Yeah, Matt and I love that because we used to run our own painting competition, and I know Dave's been involved in running plenty, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time, a lot of effort.
Yep.
The fact that vendors want to put them on just means that our resources are freed up to do other things. So which is great.
No, it's definitely cool. I think it's going to be very exciting to see, particularly we've got a lot of fantastic artists that are involved in the hobby seminars.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited to see what they bring for those various competitions. which will be great to see. And with Warhammer Fest going on in the UK on like the end of April, I'm curious to see how that affects how many people travel from Europe to
For the Golden
US
Demon.
For the Golden Demon, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly going to be interesting to see how that plays out because I mean obviously why I think it's improved a little bit the sterling and euro to U.S. dollar, the global economy, it's a little more expensive for Europeans to travel to the U.S. whereas before it was probably a lot easier. Between that and having Warhammer Fest, in April, we'll see how much European talent attends the Golden Demon at AdeptiCon this year.
Yep. I think one of the things that I particularly appreciate about how it's organized at or how it's working at AdeptiCon is apparently at Warhammer Fest you bought your ticket for Warhammer Fest, and then there was an additional ticket for Golden Demon. I don't know that it was any extra money, but basically once those tickets sold out as such, there's basically, I think they did that they had a certain amount of cabinet space.
Could be.
So it was like, okay, we don't want to go over that, so we'll restrict the number of people who can enter. Whereas obviously at Adepticon, it's if you want to enter, come along, enter. So.
Yeah, I mean, I thought cabinet space wise, we had a lot of good entries last year, and I thought there was still some room in some of those cabinets for more. So I'm looking forward to see who comes back this year and what a lot of those artists bring.
No, I think it's going to be very cool. Very excited. Excellent. Sorry, just quickly there. Scott says Dave Taylor wearing the Evia Metal shirt is not to be confused with the Dave Taylor who helps run the Evia Metal group on Facebook. It's absolutely true. There is another Dave Taylor in the UK who runs this group. I discovered that when I started receiving DMs on Facebook from people who wanted to buy shirts from me.
You should have been like, yeah, sure, I'll sell you a shirt, 100%.
I was like, what the hell's this?
Yeah.
So I went and searched. Oh, hey Dave, how you doing? I'm Dave. Let's get this worked out. But yeah.
I'm looking through the chat. So Scott wants to know if there's a firm date for AdeptiCon 24.
I'm sure there is.
But you usually announce that after the show, right?
I'm not
usually announce that during the show.
Oh, during the show.
Towards the end.
Scott also wants to know, as a Canadian, if he wants to blend in with the Chicago locals, who runs the part of town where the venue is? Is he wearing blue or red? And then he said neither. And then Cliff said, considering that we're essentially Canada's Miami, you'll be well loved here. Matt wants you to get Errol Otis, old school D&D artist, for your artist alley. That'd be kind of cool.
Well, I think he wants, if you're going to head to Gary Con, he wants you to.
Yeah, I'm not going to be at Gary Con, but I could ask somebody. I'll see if Doug can get his autograph or something.
Yeah.
What else?
Excellent.
Yeah, those logistics are the worst. So Scott said the Geek Nation tour actually looks really cool. He said it's actually set up really well.
Yep. No, very definitely.
Yeah, Terrace does a great job with that. I mean, obviously, I'm not signing up to attend Adepticon, but it seems like that tour always does well, and the people that are involved in it always have a good time. So, and it's certainly a way, if you have if you're attending from an international perspective, it's a way to have kind of all your logistics taken care of for you.
Yep.
I feel like that would be super easy especially if you're not familiar with the area. Anything that's all inclusive like that just makes it so much easier for you if you don't know the area.
Yeah.
Sure.
Very definitely. And if you're traveling by yourself as well, it's a instant sort of meeting friends, meeting your friends. It's a very easy way to do it. But no, definitely cool.
I always tell people all the time, like if they're thinking about going to a show and they want to play games, they're always like, "Oh, I'm really nervous to bring an army." I was like, the friendly at AdeptiCon is one of the best events I've ever seen. Like it is just it is so laid back and it's such a good time. And every time I've had the opportunity to like see people or meet people in it, I've never had a bad experience. Which, as someone who's played in as many tournaments over the years, like that's tough to say. Like you normally can't say. You're like, oh yeah, well the first 2 days these guys were great. The second 2 days these are great. And you're like, but I played this absolute clown on such and such day. And all my friends who have played in the event, I've never heard anything like that where they're like, oh yeah, we've never had an issue, which is just awesome. So,
yep, the 40K friendly event, yeah. With is BC running that again?
I'm sure he's involved in it. I mean, Jeff has always been involved in that as well. There's a whole crew of that group that sort of takes turns shepherding that event and picking out whatever the theme's going to be for the year. And they've kind of adopted the spirit of that event.
Yeah,
they've done a great job with it. It's definitely one of the highlights. At AdeptiCon is the friendly for sure.
No, that's great.
In fact, somebody was asking about where the rule packet was for that the other day. I'm like, I don't know, because it kind of really doesn't matter. Because I think that was Brian Carlson's thing. Is like, we're gonna play some games.
Yep.
Somebody will win at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter. Right?
No.
So,
show up, have some fun.
Yeah,
it'll be good. Excellent.
Does John Schaefer still run the Horus Heresy stuff?
No.
John was involved, I think, with some of the Horus Heresy stuff and with the Graying Legion. Was Ty and Mark Rayleigh and some of those folks. John's heading up Necromunda at AdeptiCon. He's doing some stuff with that, running those events, and I'm sure he'll also be staffing some Onslaught over the weekend as well. Sure, with WizKids.
Yep. Yeah. And Ben Hardy, I think, is running a Adeptus Titanicus campaign. So you get the Adeptus Titanicus stuff, which has this awesome campaign stuff that he's building. I've seen a couple of the. He's building this huge map.
Yeah,
I think it's like 61 tiles of like hex maps.
The old ones, yeah, those are the best.
Oh no, he's
these are supersized, I think.
Yeah, he's basically these ones are 5 inches across, and he's sculpting all of the digitally sculpting all of the stuff.
What was the thing that GW made that had the hex tiles that were like this big?
Mighty Empires.
Yeah, Mighty Empires, and they did.
What was the 40K?
Did a 40K version of it, or
a friend of ours went around. Remember when they put one in a White Dwarf?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like you got a free one. So a friend of ours went around, and I used to run the bunker that was in Boston. They did the Warhammer bunker, or it was Games Workshop bunker back then. It wasn't called Warhammer bunker, but so we had a guy who was a regular, and he went around and got every single one of them he could get. Because most people were like, "What's this?" And they were like, "Oh, I'm going to get rid of this." He got everyone he could get, and he made this giant interactive map and made a map campaign. It was phenomenal. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So I love when people like have passion projects like that, and they want to like share their joy with everybody else and get people involved and hooked. So Titanicus is such a great game too. I love it.
Chris Golga says it was Planetary Empires for 40K.
Oh, okay.
Josh says there are also games run that are minis inclusive. I don't know what we're going with that, Josh, but it says Sail Power and Tech Commander, or just get your ticket and pick your ride. So basically, where you don't have to. That's what it is. Minis inclusive means that they're already there on the table, waiting for you to come up and play a game. So definitely check out Josh. Josh will be there at some point running games of Sail Power and Tech Commander. Scott asks, are there painting classes and stuff like that? Why, yes, indeed, there are.
There is stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah. I think there are, how many different classes are there this year? It's,
I mean, we have nine, I think 8 or 9 classrooms running full schedules, all 4 days or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an enormous class schedule for sure. I think,
36.
if Matt's still in the chat, he can probably give us an accurate number, but it's significant.
Yeah, absolutely. There's probably Cliff says a metric butt ton of classes.
A lot.
But yeah, it's over 100. Over 100 different classes has to be. But yeah, there are hour-long classes. There are 8-hour-long classes. There's all sorts of stuff. But yeah, when tickets go on sale, those are definitely a lot of the first stuff that sell out.
Do you guys?
Oh, there we go. 166 classes.
Damn.
Insane.
So I was gonna ask, over the years, because you guys have been doing this forever now. Like over the years, have you guys had to do? Have you guys had a tough time doing like vetting for people, like with events and stuff, or like especially classes?
I mean, we've been very fortunate, right? Prior, originally the hobby seminar stuff was started and kind of shepherded by Chris Bohr, and that torch has kind of passed to Damon Drescher, and they've done a great job, kind of vetting teachers, instructors, the whole classes. I mean, they're well connected in the industry. They know a lot of the key players. They, the other thing I will tell you is, Damon, I know, asks instructors and kind of, especially new ones, has kind of an interview with them. And if AdeptiCon's their first teaching experience, it's not likely that they're going to be teaching at AdeptiCon. That he wants folks that have experience teaching hobby classes, and that ultimately probably somebody that Damon knows has taken one of those classes and can provide feedback. Because that's definitely something. I'm not going to say that we haven't had some poor experiences in some of the classes, but generally speaking, the overall response to the hobby seminar slates every year is overwhelmingly positive. So,
yep.
Yeah, it was just another thing I was going to give you guys credit on. That was why I asked. Like a friend of mine had not at Adepticon, but had a horrendous experience. Was like, yeah, like this guy had us all sign up for his class, and he listed as like expert level painting and all this stuff. So him and a bunch of his friends went, and he brought his wife, and they signed up for the class. And I mean, it was a horror story. Like everything you could imagine that went wrong. He was like, the guy showed up late, and he like didn't have enough brushes for everybody, and like he's like, he kept showing his models, and like he's like, I didn't think that they were particularly great. And I was like, send me his stuff. And I looked at it, I was like, there's no way that this kid should have been teaching a class. Like I was like, how much was the class? And he was like, I don't remember what it was, but he was really upset. So I just, having dealt with that as someone who has taught a class and someone who's taken a class, I don't even want to imagine like the headache that you guys have to deal with making sure that doesn't happen. So.
Yeah, I mean, we try our best to pre-vet it, pre-vet everyone. Event-wise, honestly, most of the events year after year are already kind of locked in. There's very little that's added that we don't have a hand in, at least curating. It's not like we put out a public forum and let it just anybody submit an event. We're at a stage now where we're just out of space, and so events are kind of handpicked for the most part. But what I can tell you is if we ever do have an instructor experience like you just described, it's the last year they teach.
Yeah, and again, I think that's how most people down it. I just think again, it's just another tip of the cap to you guys. Like you've done such a great job of like kind of curating this and making sure that everything is not only professional but like enjoyable. Like every part of the reason that I think you guys grow so fast and the reason why everybody likes going to the show is like everything is just great. It's a fun show and there's so much good stuff to do. I mean, like I think the biggest show I do is normally Gen Con. This year I'm doing San Diego Comic-Con, which is I'm gonna be honest, I'm actually a little nervous. Like that show is so huge that like Dave and I will be there. Like Dave and I are going as guests, which is crazy to me. But I'm almost like I don't know what to expect. It's so giant. Like but that's a show that you always hear like everybody loves it and it's such so I'm like, okay. I'm like I'm, fingers crossed. I'm like, let's keep it positive. Hopefully it'll be great, but it just seems nerve wracking to me having a show that big with that many attendees and that many events. And I think you guys are right at that. You guys are right at that sort of maximum threshold where like the show is just big enough that you're at that point where you're like, like you said, you're like, what do we do? Do we wait for the build? Like, all these things we got to worry about. But you're also not. You're not so big. You're like, well, there's too many things to worry about. Like, we can't keep track of it all. We had to hire a whole staff to, we have this guy who runs this department, and this guy runs this department, and this guy runs this department. You guys are still able to keep it all like, this is all mine, and I'm gonna watch all this stuff. This is my herd. I have to protect. So,
well,
I think that's been a conscious effort too, right? Where we're not, we had opportunities to expand into like, Magic the Gathering stuff. I mean, or other genres of stuff. I just think there's something very special about the vibe. Matt's very, strongly opinionated about keeping it to the miniature tabletop and keeping our focus, right on that area of the hobby. And there's just kind of a special vibe when you get, 6,000 people together that all, love and enjoy tabletop miniatures. And, to go much bigger than we are, it's just not something we're really interested in.
You guys, I tell people all the time, you guys do have a little bit of overlap because there's board games, but it's only stuff that has like cool minis in it. So
yeah, no, I mean we do have board gaming, and we do honestly. When GaryCon wasn't on our weekend, we had some show offices where we allowed, in particular, role playing games where there were miniature game adjacent. So sort of like, when Fantasy Flight when X-Wing was big, they also had their Star Wars game, the 40K role-playing game. So we have a little bit of that. Yeah. But and the main reason for board gaming really was what we started to see, 20 years ago. I was a young guy. I didn't have family. I didn't have, I guess I was married at that time or getting married at that time. But what's happened over the last 20 years of AdeptiCon is it's really kind of grown into like a family show, right? Where it's friends and family. People are starting to bring their kids around. I'm pretty sure you're going to see Matt's son, my son Henry, and one of our other friends, Chris Maristat's son. Those three guys are going to be running around the show this year like world's on fire. It's going to be interesting because they've all hit kind of that age where they can kind of roam unsupervised. So look out, everyone.
Do you guys still allow access, right? Like if I'm playing an event, like I can bring my little kid and my wife or whatever, right? Like you, yeah, okay. Like that's another thing I think is super cool on your behalf. Like you said, with it being a family show, I just think that's awesome. It's always really neat to be able to like pop in and see people hanging out with their families. Like Dave and I'll see, like Jeff Wallach is always there with his kids.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, we last year we ended up having to require a badge for everybody due to COVID, right? But prior to that, spectators were always free, right? So as long as you aren't participating in an event or participating in a painting competition, you want to come, walk around, go shop in the vendor hall, grab a hot dog, whatever. You're welcome to come to AdeptiCon and walk around. There's no fee.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
I wanted to jump in quickly and talk about the awesome when you mentioned like having big staff, Jake. Even though so there is a big staff, but they're all volunteers. So everybody volunteers for AdeptiCon. Do you know? Have you got an idea of how many people are involved in that volunteer process, sort of throughout the year?
Well, our staff group's about 180 individuals, something like that. And there's always some percentage of those that were involved, in past years that aren't as involved in this year, but certainly in that range, right? That's what it takes kind of to put on the show. So it's a significant number of people that dedicate a lot of their hobby time, a lot of their enjoyment of projects to see thousands of people having a good time playing at AdeptiCon.
Yeah, I know. And we talked mentioned earlier, I talked about going to Spray Team. I feel super privileged about going to Spray Team to help out. So last Friday, I flew into Peoria, Illinois. Hank picked me up from the airport, along with Nathan Heron, buddies from Texas. And I think there ended up being about 12 or 14 of us in Hank's garage.
Yeah, peak. I think we were over 14, not counting me and my family.
Yep. But and we had the little bit more glamorous job, I guess, of turning like terrain that was primed black, that had been assembled and primed black, and turning that into physical stuff that's going to appear on the tables. But throughout the year, you've got an army of people who volunteer to help build that terrain, clip the GW terrain from the sprues, or 3D print tables and tables worth of terrain. How many assembly weekends do you have? Because I know you have a bunch of those.
Oh boy, I mean we're doing it to off time probably at least once a month, usually twice a month. We have days on the calendar, and this time of year it's every weekend we're doing stuff. So I mean it's a crazy amount of effort for sure.
Yeah. It's always amazing to know that, like, when we're at Spray Team and we I think there've been one or two times when it's been like, oh, I think we've got everything done. And we turn around and it's like, nope, there's one more tote.
One more tote.
One more tote.
That's right.
You open up another tote, one of those big sort of black totes with the yellow lids, lift off the lid, and it's like, oh, okay, no, here's another 57 pieces of terrain that somebody's assembled and primed.
Yeah.
Let's get on that. But no, it's super cool.
Thank you for lifting up the tablecloth and sliding another one out. Oh, there's another one. How'd that get?
No, I always have something in my back pocket in case they get through it all too fast. Then want to make sure we're making the most of the time.
Yeah,
nice.
Exactly. But so there's people who are assembling terrain. There are people who are keeping it all organized in the storage facility. There are people who are painting it. There are people who are packing the truck. Did you say you're starting to pack the truck already?
Yeah, the three semis. So the first semi got dropped this week, and so we're gonna get that loaded this weekend, as well as wrap up details on the last remaining pieces from the Spray Team effort this past weekend. And it's going to be, it's the loading of everything, getting everything staged for the weekend has started for sure.
Yeah, that is absolutely huge. And then at the show, there are all sorts of people volunteering in all sorts of places.
For sure.
There are obviously the TOs, the anybody who is specifically running a particular event, and their teams. So
not to mention the scads of people that come in early and help get all the VIG and premium swag bag stuffed. I mean, that's a train of folks that help make that effort possible.
Yep. So if you're arriving at the show on Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, there is always something to be done. So
always something to be done.
Yeah, just head to the registration area and volunteer your time to help out and get that stuff packed. At the end of the show, there's always things to be done there. Mats to be rolled up, terrain to be put away in totes.
I always wonder if we're actually going to get everything packed back up. I mean, it seems, in particular with those the Golden Demon cases that we did last year, that was definitely an unknown quantity there of how that was all going to work out. Turned out okay.
Cool, that's great.
Cool. I think another thing that speaks highly of you guys is how many people are always willing to do that stuff and sign up. Like last year on Sunday after everything was over and the vendor hall part was broken down, myself and the team at the Warlord booth, especially Ogre, like we must have broke down 100 tables and like put them on the racks and wheeled them out. I was just like, this is crazy. But with everybody doing it, it was at first you look at it and you're like, oh my god, this is going to take us. We're going to be here till next Thursday, and 3 hours later, you're like, oh my, how did all these tables get put away? And you're like, well, there's 400 of us doing it, so.
Yep. Many hands make light work.
And I similarly, Jake, right? I'm sitting in the garage before spray team. I'm looking at these racks and racks and racks and racks and totes full of stuff that I've printed. We've printed. I mean, I say, not only AdeptiCon, we also had a number of AdeptiCon staff that did prints. And I'm just wondering, man, did I bite off more than I can chew, and more than we can get done? And when you get 14 very talented people together, it's kind of amazing what they can get through in a very short period of time. So I was sitting there, trying to coordinate stuff, but looking around the room and the amount of like golden demons just in my garage, like golden demon winners, Slayer sword winners.
You're like, all I need to do now is shut my garage and lock them in here.
Right.
I can do my own painting studio.
Yeah, it's like, maybe we could switch to that shelf of stack of plastic there that I need to get done. But
it was amazing seeing Chris Bora over there airbrushing a building, and he was like, "This is the first piece of terrain I've ever painted," and it's like, "Dude, you've got 4 Slayer swords. What the hell?" Okay, I'm gonna use that moment to switch over the shot to I got some photos here from spray teams past.
Okay.
So the first photo I've got here is of a much younger Hank. I say much younger. It was only 4 years ago, 2019. He's sitting there.
Oh god, painting all those containers.
Yep, painting those containers.
120 containers that year.
Yep. In the foreground there, we've got Mike Coleman. Mike was doing a lot of working on. It was basically running the print farm this weekend.
That's all that Sector Mechanica stuff.
Yep.
Is he painting gold banding that you got everybody roped into?
He is, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Basically, I made a decision that was the right decision, but perhaps not appreciated at the time, to paint all the metallic banding on those buildings in gold.
What? I'm sure that went over great. I'm sure people were thrilled with you.
It's 4 years later, and nobody's forgotten. So there we go.
Well, it's just because like halfway through that weekend, we're all plowing through stuff, and you're still painting gold trim, and we realize, like if we're gonna get through that, we better give you some help. So
if we're gonna get those 60 buildings banded.
Yeah.
Yep. It was pretty cool. Next up, what's the next one? There should be.
Yes, that was the year we did all the Sector Mechanicus buildings. Yeah.
Yep. So that was 2018. The next one I think we've got is a picture of Andrew Gray's hands with another 20 plus containers.
Oh god, more containers, and then he's got all the statues.
Yep. So if we ended up doing a spray team signature series with Monument, the verdigris would probably be a part of that.
Nice.
But that was that same year. So Andrew Gray from California. This next one here was the first time we had some spray team merch. So you can see me with my little beanie there.
Yeah.
But
nice.
Yep. Dave Powles and Jeff Jenkins there doing the little photo bomb. Damon Drescher, Hank, a bunch of guys. I thought
it was Richard Dreyfuss, but maybe it was
it might be. I could be wrong. But so that was 2020. Yeah, this was January 2020 when we thought hadn't heard about COVID yet. That was still a few weeks away, still a month away. But Yeah, definitely good. Had fun with that.
That was when we were working on all that MCP, that initial MCP train for launch, when we did the first
No.
all that.
Did we do? Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We did all those cars.
All those cars.
Yeah, Jeff painted all those cars. Yeah. Because last year when we were back 2020, so January 2022, we did a whole bunch of MCP stuff. So the first shot I've got here is of the Sanctum Sanctoris. Is that what it's called? Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yep.
Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yep. So this one we painted 4 of these, and that was myself, Nathan Heron, and Joe Adams. And I think it was the Saturday night we sat down and we each had an idea of how we wanted it to look. And so
there's 4 different ones?
No, they all end up looking exactly the same, but what we did is we each, I was like, I can picture exactly how I want the roofs. And so I got to do a test roof. And I think Nate was like, I know how I want the bricks to look. So he did a test brick face. And then Joe did a test for the concrete, or stone, concrete stone texture. And then we all looked at it and went, yeah, these are fantastic. Let's combine them all into the thing. So we then had to go through and keep handing it around. It was like, okay, what have you finished with? What have you done? Is that dry? Can I mask that off?
They look great.
Yep, it worked out great. And that's the next thing I've got to show everybody. I have a movie.
He's already like, have you seen our Golden Demon winning Sanctum Sanctorum?
It could be like that.
This was painted by 4 top-tier painters.
So here's a movie of all the stuff we painted last January. All the MCP stuff.
Oh my god. Oh my, how many people did this?
Last year was probably about 12 or 14, somewhere in there.
Yeah, around 12.
Over the course of a weekend. So
really Friday night, Saturday, and half a day Sunday for the majority of folks.
That is an army. That is an army of trash trucks.
Oh, it is. It's ridiculous. But that's a whole city's worth of apartment buildings as well.
That is crazy. Oh, you've got some of the cosmic terrain too. Nice.
Yep. So yeah.
I get all those trash trucks. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Dude, that's gotta be there's like 30 trash trucks there.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you're gonna have something for Hulk to throw, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And that is from this weekend. It's another
Nice.
shot of everybody getting stuck in. I think.
Good for you guys. That's awesome.
Is it backwards there? Yep. How did the shot end up backwards? I don't know.
Scott says 120 containers. I'd wash that down with a bottle of aspirin and a bottle of vodka.
I'm not saying that's not what happened, but it's also not what's happened. Excellent.
Yeah, those cabinets up there have some spirits in them for sure.
Yep. So this is some of the stuff that we worked on. So there are 4 different sets of the Macedon range of scenery from is it War Scenery? Is that the name of the
War Scenery? Yeah, they kickstarted it. Yeah.
So this is stuff that could work well for some desert planets in Star Wars.
Yeah, I was gonna say it has kind of a Legion vibe.
Oh, it's definitely all everything we worked on. Pretty much everything we worked on this weekend was Legion.
Yeah.
But when it's in this scheme, it has a bit more of a you could stick it on a desert planet. But there's another couple of schemes that really would fit well for a for like Naboo kind of style. But yeah, these were crazy. Pardon?
It's good looking terrain.
Yep. Here we go. Here's the slightly more Naboo kind of look. So we have the more of that like a jade.
Yeah, I like that. I like that one. That's really cool. I think you guys should just. I think the whole spray team should just enter the Golden Demon. You guys should, as a group, just win the Slayer Sword. Like just sheer volume of entries. I don't see how you guys can lose.
Yeah, volume of entries is the big thing. But yeah.
Like winning the Stanley Cup, like you guys each have the sword for like a weekend.
Yep.
Like the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just passing around for sure. So the fun part with these buildings is that so you can certainly get in there and airbrush the roofs and the walls, but when you get down to all these chimneys and doors and cables, there's a little bit of hand painting is required.
Right on.
Unfortunately. But
yeah, like this is where I think honestly, this is where I think like being like really good with a rattle can or like being good with an airbrush, I think it makes such a huge difference with bulk terrain where you're like, man, I gotta get like even as somebody who's like, I have to get a table's worth of terrain painted.
Yep.
It makes it way easier. So I can only imagine when you increase that by an order of magnitude, you're like, I have to get an entire ballroom's worth of tables painted.
Yeah. The great thing as well is that if even if you haven't used an airbrush before, or you don't really know what you're doing with an airbrush, you'll be put on a task where it's basic airbrushing, but around you there's another 10 people who have used an airbrush before to get down and do stuff, and it might be like, well, I think we'll need to mask this off, and so you might get out some blue tape and try masking it off and doing that first and mask everything and then spray it, and then you look over and somebody's got like a paper towel and they're just holding a paper towel around the piece and going, and they'll spin it, and it works perfectly. You're like, incredible.
That's awesome. I also think it's a good way to practice. Like if you've never used an airbrush before, practicing on terrain, you're not going to be super upset if the color's like maybe it's not perfect. You're like, well, I can, I'll do another layer and I'll airbrush over it, kind of thing. Yeah. So I think it's a cool way to practice too and build up your confidence.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice little Ewok huts.
Yep. Ewok huts and trees.
Yeah, that's from I think Imperial Train, and it's their Forest Village set. So we did a bunch of that for a number of tables for that.
Yep.
Are there tops to those?
Yeah, there's tops and different levels and walkways and.
Yep.
Yeah, we have these racks where we just kind of store stuff where it's in process, and I think Jake, you asked maybe earlier about what our process is, and so there are three big sort of buckets that we had this last spray team. The one was get through the Macedon terrain, get through the Forest Village terrain, and then get through this Dune C stuff. And we really pair up with people. Dave took the lead on the Macedon stuff. Another team was working on the Ewok Village stuff. And then we had a group that were working on a lot of the X-Wings and yeah.
So those are yeah, we had it was John Schaefer, Dennis Johnston, Tim Toolin.
Yep.
All did work on the Forest Village. Actually, yeah, the last thing that John did while he was there before he left was painted the torches.
Yeah.
So all of these torches, he went through and painted them all white, gave him a yellow contrast, orange contrast, red contrast. Got them all done. I said, how many were there, John? And he goes, 200.
Yeah, at least.
So everything that you do, every step you take throughout this painting process, you got to remember it's got to be multiplied by 40, 50, 200.
Yeah, but I bet the good news is after you do the first 50, he's like, I can do this in my sleep. I bet he got it. Yep. It's like, I am so good at doing torches now.
Yep.
It's like, oh, there's torches in this. So just give it to our torch guy. John's great at that stuff.
Yeah, John will do all the
He's our
torches.
torch guy. Yeah, a lot of people like Scott's like, I'm getting chest pains. Look at the amount of assembly line painting on display.
Yep. This one's
Dave said drop bear assault terrain, the all the Ewok Village stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Oh, those are super cool.
Excellent. Yeah, this is the train set. Who does the train?
So that's a company out of Poland. I think they're called Multiverse, and this is his repulsor land train kit. That's pretty flexible in how you assemble it, and then we have stands for it. And
Yeah.
Nate Herron worked on this.
Yeah.
Did you guys?
Fantastic.
Did you guys get like the? Did you guys get the STLs and print these yourselves, or did you order them?
No, these are printed ourselves. Yeah. So Paul Long. So in addition to the 3 Jupiters and the 5.7 FDMs that we have, Paul has some Saturn 2s that he was also, I think, 2 of those. So he primarily printed the repulsor train on his Saturns and brought those to us. So these are all resin. Everything here is resin.
How big are what are those? Like 12 feet long or 12 inches long?
12 inches long. Yeah, each car is about 12.
Those are super cool.
Yep. They are super cool, and they did a great job on the chipping and the shading on those. They look fantastic.
Yeah, speaking when you were talking about learning stuff, right? So he'd seen Rich Erickson doing the chipping technique, and those guys spent some time together,
Yeah.
and Nate took that on. And one of the things with this whole process, if you're not very good at doing chipping when you start, by the time you're done, you'll be really good at doing it because you're going to do it about 200 times.
You got to practice. It's a lot of practice.
A lot of practice.
Next up, so these are some of the like the Tuscan Raider habitats for the June C buildings, June C tables.
Nice.
Which look fantastic. There was a lot of discussion about what they were actually made out of, whether it was fur or like whether it was fabric or some sort of artificial material, or bantha hides or what have you.
It's all Sarlacc stomach linings.
It could be, yeah. There are a lot of things that we weren't sure. There was a discussion about bantha nipples.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most amusing parts was that somebody suggested that perhaps this was not the first time that a group of guys got together in somebody's garage to talk about bantha nipples. But
those are all made from crate dragon scrotums.
Oh, jeez. Thanks. We didn't go there.
Yeah. Oh.
Awesome.
Don't worry, I got you, Dave. I got you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
What did Paul's paint? Oh.
Yep. Dave painted the he painted a set of he sprayed a set of the Macedon terrain. So he did the ivory, sort of the bone colored ones.
Yeah.
Bori did the terracotta ones. I did the ochre ones.
Yeah.
Those are super
Yeah, Dave worked on the buildings to begin with, and he just kept looking longingly over at this tray of banthas that needed to be painted for the Student C set. So he kept kind of drifting over to those, and finally he finished up the 4 banthas that go with that terrain.
He moved off the buildings and onto the banthas. But,
yeah.
He did enjoy painting those, didn't he?
He did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Scott, another great comment. Scott said, "I'm not kidding, boys. I'm legit tired from watching the stream. I've run cons before with 16 tables, and I know how much work we had to put in to get 16 tables worth." He's like, "I thought that was Herculean. This is crazy."
Yep. Awesome. Yes. So these were part of the. So these ones are Atomic Mass Games. Star Wars Legion official.
Yeah, those just came out today, like to the public. Those just came out today.
Okay, cool.
Do you have a picture of the bantha?
No, I don't. Sorry. Maybe Hank can get us a picture and we'll post it in the group.
Yeah, I can send you a picture of the bantha.
Cool. But so there's a whole bunch of the like crashed ATSTs, the crashed X-wings, all the attendant bits and pieces. So those were all painted by 3 guys who were it was all their first time at Spray Team. So Rich Erickson, Jeremy Cream, is that right?
Yeah, Robert's Cream, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Toby
Donica. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, 3 guys who'd never met each other before, lived in different parts of the country, came together, painted up some very awesome stuff. So if you're at the show, definitely check those out. Have a close
so
look.
that was defeated 9 of the X-wing kits. So that's there's I think four pieces to each one of those.
Yeah.
And then the downed ATST, they painted I think 8 or 9 of those, and then the Imperial bunkers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely check out those bunkers. Rich did an awesome job with the
lining.
The weathering on those looks spectacular.
I want to try to get my hands on like a busted up version of the old Kenner AT-AT toy.
All right. Yep.
Like one that's really like mangled, and turn it into an actual piece of terrain. Like have like a ripped off leg and have it like crashed. Like I just think that'd be a cool piece because it's about the right size if you're thinking Legion scale.
Yeah.
If we're being honest, like the old Kenner toys it was totally the wrong scale.
Oh yeah, for sure. Wrong scale for the minis. Yeah. Or the action figures. But actually, if you check out, go and have a look on Tabletop, and scroll. Oh, actually, like search through their Star Wars Legion stuff. Back when Legion was released, they did a series of videos on doing just that, basically taking one of those kits and making an awesome table out of it. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. So there we go. That's what we've got for that. I'm gonna transition us back to the 3 of us, and we're also at 8:43.
Okay, so we can release get Hank out of here. I'm sure he's got stuff to do.
He's got dinner to have.
Yeah,
that's one of the other.
I mean, if you don't want me to stick around, I'll drop. But I'm more than welcome.
No, we're gonna be wrapping up anyway. But I was gonna say that's another fantastic thing about Spray Team is that we always get fed incredibly well at Spray Team, and particularly Sunday mornings is biscuits and gravy, and there is no better gravy in the world than the gravy that Hank's wife Diane makes. It's awesome.
I mean, if you're trying to make me jealous, it's working.
What's that?
If you're trying to make me jealous, it's working.
Yeah. Yep. You should be. All you have to do is paint 60 tables of terrain.
I have to paint 700 banthas.
Maybe not 700. 4's plenty. But excellent.
Well, we also watch what we would call quality cinema while we're painting too. So that's the other aspect of Spray Team
that is true. I think we probably watched like 13 or 14 movies, maybe more.
More than me, probably.
Yep. Almost all 80s classics.
Nice. Are you guys, speaking of Star Wars stuff, are you guys excited for the new slightly larger skirmish game that they're putting out? It's going to be more in line with Crisis Protocol.
Shatterpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just dropped a live stream unboxing of that today. We're definitely. I mean, they're going to have demos of that at AdeptiCon for the first time, I think. Definitely check it out. The models are great.
We're looking forward to it. We're really excited. Chris, who's in the chat, literally was messaging me today, being like, "Hey, can I order the Shatterpoint stuff from you guys?" And I was like, "Whoa, yeah, easy. Like, I'll take care of you."
Excellent.
Yeah, it's one of those games, along with like WizKids Onslaught, that I'm interested in checking out for sure.
Yeah, Onslaught's really neat. It's kind of like, hey, want to play Chainmail? Which is great. Like the whole, there's so many people that are younger than us that are gonna be like, "What's Chainmail?" And I'm like, that's basically what Onslaught is. It's tweaked, but it's very similar. That'll be really neat. There's a lot of cool stuff coming out this year. The what's the other one I'm really looking forward to? The was it Rivet Zone? Like Rivet Zone's coming back. The weird like chibi World War I steampunk. Yeah, like that looks really fun. And now that the guys at Steamforge have it, like we're gonna get all the stuff that they wanted to do. So we're gonna get all like the tanks and all that stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. There's always more stuff coming. And then and hopefully in the next year or two we're gonna get Epic, and then maybe BFG again. So
Who knows?
Who knows indeed.
Eric, you can see the fin. It's coming. I'm gonna need a bigger wallet. But
we all need bigger wallets, don't we? We all do.
I gotta figure out a way to pull a Michael Keaton in Multiplicity and like clone myself so I can have multiple jobs, and then I can just buy all the minis I want.
That's what you got to do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
You just can't clone a clone because that's when stuff gets out of control.
Yep. I just remembered one of the things I need to do. If I can get the three of us to be smiling at our cameras respectively, I'm going to take a screenshot. That's what I need. I don't need to do
for
that.
The stream.
The stream.
Yep, looking directly. So, did that work? Nope. There we go. Awesome. Just so I can put it up on the live stream on the YouTube page after the show.
I'll find those Bantha photos and send them.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll show them next week. I love that in the actual movie they were elephants wearing like fur costumes. Like I love that they were like, oh, every time my wife sees them, she's like, those are elephants. That's awesome. I was like, it's amazing that they did that.
I gotta admit, I never actually thought of what it was.
It's literally an elephant wearing like a fur costume.
Yep. That's funny. Funny. Awesome. Before we do go, I do have to. We didn't say hi to Keith. Hi, Keith. And we didn't say hi to Dave Hummel. Hi, Dave. Hopefully, your travels are going relatively smoothly, even though the weather doesn't.
He said earlier he would have been on earlier, but like apparently the roads were horrendous. Yeah. It's all like frozen.
Not good. So, but fingers crossed. Tomorrow will be smoother sailing. And Dan Wood says, "Give me BFG or give me death." Awesome. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there for this evening. We haven't worked out what we're going to be talking about next week, but we'll be here talking about it nonetheless.
Yep.
Jake and I will talk after the show and work out something.
Well, something.
And
we'll post.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for being on. It was great, like to kind of dig into things and give people kind of a look behind the curtain. Like that's always fun to be able to share that. So.
Yep, absolutely awesome. Thanks very much, Hank.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything you do. Everything. All of it.
All of it. Well, see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, true. Less than 2 months. 50-some days. That'd be awesome.
Oh, man. Everybody, thank you guys for joining us and being on here to watch. And I didn't realize we were losing. He punched out.
Wait.
Everybody, thank you guys for being here. We'll see you guys next week. And as always, don't forget to build, paint, play.
And now I'm going to transition out. There we go.
Wow. Shut up and sit down.